Welcome to In Our Community. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host, and tonight I am so really honored to introduce my guest, Diana Guido, and she is so many things that she's going to tell you exactly what she does. Welcome. I'm so glad you thought of that.
Thank you, Suzanne.
So tell us.
Oh, I'm so pleased to be here. I work for the Department of Behavioral Health Services in the Office of Family Affairs, and I'm a mental health peer support worker, is what I do. I'm also a substance abuse counselor, and I'm just pleasured. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you about mental health. It's a sensitive topic, and I think it's very misunderstood. There's a lot of stigma and judgment around mental health. So I'm so glad to be here and bring some knowledge and awareness to.
Well, I do want to tell the audience that formerly you were an interior decorator, which is kind of opposite, right? Except I think you have to be a mental health peer counselor to work with people. Very difficult. So, how did you get into mental health?
Good question. And you brought up the fact that I was an interior designer, and I had my own business for several years, and I have 3 sons, and my oldest son was away at college, and when he came back home from college, I could tell that, something just was a little different. He was very outgoing young man and very, had a lot of friends and was, very active in sports. And when he came home from college, he kind of was just laying around in his bedroom, and he was isolating and not talking to me very much. And, I asked him, was anything wrong? And he just said, well, school was difficult, and he had broken up with a girlfriend. And, I thought, oh, okay. But, he sure seemed like a different person. Well, we were out on the lake water skiing, which I love to do. And the lake had gotten rough, and I said, go into shore and go to our home, which we live on this lake. And I said, go home and get, put the wakeboards back, and let's just go inner tubing, because it's too rough. I put him ashore, and he looked at me really, just kind of confused. And I said, what's wrong? And he says, Mom, I don't know how to get home. And I said, you don't know how to get home? What's wrong? And so at that moment, I thought, what's going on? And then I said, I pulled the boat into the shore, and he got into the boat, and then he started saying things like, we need to go to the other end of the lake, Mom. Amy's over there, and I need to go talk to her. And then, saying that I had seen these people blindfolding this man. He was talking things that weren't making any sense. And so I knew that something was really not right with my son. He wasn't able to sleep at night. He was starting to see scary things on his walls. He was starting to talk and just, not being able to articulate his words. So I took him in to get assessed. And at first, the assessment, it was very difficult because we'd go into the psychiatrist and he could talk okay. Then he'd come out of the psychiatrist's office and he would be a different person again. And so I'd bring him back to the psychiatrist's office and say, this isn't right. Finally, he was put on a 5150, which is a psychiatric hold, because he started to show symptoms of not being able to, he was a danger to himself. And so he's put on the psychiatric hold, and I went into the hospital to go see him. And, it was very difficult because I was very scared. I was very concerned. What's going on with my son? I didn't understand what was going on. And when I first saw him, I thought, please tell me you took some acid. That this isn't mental illness. But it wasn't.
It was mental illness.
It was mental illness. And so, it just hit me. I just, as his mom, I thought his life was over. You know, I just thought it was like a knife going into my stomach. It was so painful. And I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know how to approach this. And it was just very confusing to me. So, you know, long story short, I started not handling this very well, and I started to self-medicate. As I was so depressed, and I was trying to keep, you know, my house and my life, and I was in a domestic violence relationship. It was just, you know, I had a lot of stressors, and so I started to medicate my own depression, and it wasn't the right thing to do, but this is what happened. And so, you know, I became addicted to methamphetamine. And, you know, then my other two children were removed, put into foster care. And so I was just, you know, and then I went homeless. And so I was homeless. My son's in a mental hospital. My other two children are in foster care. I'm just, you know, my life just totally, my hair was on fire. My whole life changed. And so, you know, there was a savvy social worker that realized that, you know, I was a good person. I was a loving mother. I did care about my children. And she started to give me some help and services and counseling. And I started to learn about mental illness and my own mental illness and get help for that. I started to learn about my son's mental illness, which he was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. I started to learn about that. And I went to NAMI and took some classes on the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is, they give a free family-to-family class. I took the 12-week family-to-family class. And then I decided I'll even go back to school. And I went back to school, and I became a substance abuse counselor and got my certificate from the state of California. So, you know, I started to understand mental illness and started to learn to advocate. And I realized this was my passion in life, and this is what I wanted to do. So.
What a story. But don't you think that someone like you, who's been through your own substance abuse, your own mental problems, that you're much more effective because you have empathy?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yes. I've walked in the shoes, and being a mental health peer support worker, you know, when I do outreach at emergency psychiatric services, and when people, you know, come into the emergency room, the mothers that are there, I've had to bring my son there before. I understand how they feel that, you know, inside, how painful it is and how fearful they are and how many questions they have.
And Diana, don't you think that mental illness is still so stigmatized? You know, it's okay, you can tell someone that your kid had a broken arm, but it's different if you say, you know, my kid's got a mental problem.
Absolutely.
Why is that, do you think?
Absolutely. You're so right, Suzanne. I mean, when my son was in the hospital, no one brought me a casserole and said, or gave me, you know, or gave him a get well card. Mm-hmm. I think it's because in the media, people, you know, sensationalize all these people that have mental illness are all violent. And that's just not true. That's a myth. You know, and I still people that I talk to today, you know, and say, oh, my son has mental illness. And is he violent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about your son now. And how old is he?
He has done a lot of work to be where he's at, and he's my hero.
Why does that touch you so much?
Because it's very difficult.
Yeah.
When you have such a challenge of a serious mental illness, it takes so much courage.
Of course.
And fortitude. And
he's how old?
He's 32.
32.
He was 19 when he was first diagnosed. And so
And what's he doing with his life right now?
with his life right now, he lives with me, and we have a wonderful relationship. He's like my best friend. He's he likes to do volunteer work for. He likes to do he does do volunteer work, and he likes it. It's something new that's just happened. And he does meals for homeless people.
Oh, so look at him. I mean, what a perfect example of someone who's really been through it. I really believe that people have to go through their hell in order to come out of it. Some don't, of course. But you're such a happy person because you've got so many jobs. I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? What is the Office of Family Affairs?
Well, Office of Family Affairs, we do one-on-one support and outreach in the community. And we do a weekly family wrap.
Yeah, tell them what WRAP stands for.
And it's not a wrap like a wrap.
No, it's not a wrap sandwich.
No, it's not a wrap.
Yeah.
It's not a wrap sandwich. It's not wraparound services. It's WRAP stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And it was developed, it started in 1997, and the Mary Ellen Copeland started this wonderful evidence-based program. It's a self-help program, but it's evidence-based, meaning evidence-based means it's scientifically proven if you do WRAP, you're going to have a better outcome. And WRAP is for anyone that wants to make positive changes in their life, to develop a wellness recovery action plan. It's based on 5 key recovery principles of hope, personal responsibility, education, support, and self-advocacy. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I didn't have those in my life. And these are the things that are the glue to my recovery, to my being able to sit here right now and be alive and help my son. So I do a wellness recovery action plan for families. Every Wednesday night, I give them a wellness recovery book and a workbook. And I think we're going to put on the teleprompter screen the WRAP for right now, so that if you want to come to the WRAP group, it's the location.
Say it again.
It's Wellness Recovery Action Plan for families. It's a family support group. Everyone's welcome, whether you're a person with mental illness or you're a family member. Come and do the WRAP, and it's at 2221 Imborg Lane in San Jose, and that is at the Central Wellness and Benefits Center, and it's located on the Valley Medical Center campus. Every Wednesday night from 6:30 p.m. until 8. I've been doing WRAP there for over a year and a half. And it's just been wonderful to watch the families come and see the magic happen, because these families come and we all share one thing, mental illness. But we're able to give each other support and share the education that we know and build on each other's wellness tools in order to have a life and get well. It's all about wellness and strengths. And we also do a Spanish WRAP, which is, I'll put the prompt on for the Spanish WRAP, is on Saturdays at 5 o'clock at the same location. We have WRAP in Spanish. So it's just...
But how do people get in touch? First of all, Diana, how do they find out about, just period, if someone, say, is so-called depressed, how would they find out about you all?
How would they find out about the WRAP is...
Yeah, well, whatever. Give that phone number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think my tag is going along the bottom, which is my email address.
Okay.
Get a hold of me at diana.guido@hhssccgov.org. is my email. And then I have my office phone number is
Yeah.
408-792-2166. Or there also the Santa Clara County has a Department of Mental Health website. So they can go to the county mental health website and get information on different RAP groups that are available, not just family RAP, but there's other RAP groups.
So there's also a suicide number too, because as everybody knows what's happened with these young people and suicide. I mean, it's just so frightening what's happening. And if they can get help, like someone like you or like you save lives. And what else is there if you can help somebody?
Yeah. I'd like to also talk to you about algae here, which is there's the county's offering free you can take an 8-hour course through the county called Mental Health First Aid. And I'm a mental health first aider.
I'll say you are.
And mental health first aid is like normal first aid where you have for medical issues, you have airway, breathing, and circulation, right? The ABCs. Well, with mental health first aid, the county's offering this free 8-hour course. I think it would be wonderful. It teaches you about the different mental illnesses, what are their signs and symptoms, and how to approach someone. So instead of airway, breathing, and circulation, like for a medical, you have algae, because I guess the koalas, they started this program in Australia. So since the koalas, algae. And A stands for assess for risk of suicide or harm. L is listen non-judgmentally. G is give reassurance and information. E is encourage appropriate professional help. And E is encourage self-help and other support strategies. So algae, mental health first aid, is at www.mentalhealthfirstaid.org. And
that's easier than some of those other ones.
It's all around the country you can
yeah.
take mental health first aid. It's offered all around the country, and actually 15 other countries too, besides the United States.
I have a question for you. What has been, just for you, the most rewarding experience? I mean, what do you just love doing right now?
Oh,
such a hard question.
Gosh, there's a lot in my life I love doing working with mental health. It's a very rewarding field. And to see people that are so broken and so tragically torn apart by a horrible disease, mental illness, but to see them bring their lives back together.
And just think what a huge part of that you do all by yourself. I mean, of course you have a whole thing, but you must be the star of the Mental Health Society.
I think you can give all glory to somebody else, and it's not me.
Of course it's you. Of course it's you. Do you see yourself doing this forever?
Absolutely.
As long as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yes, and it's a field that's growing, and that's what's so wonderful is there's so much hope out there for the future of our generations, that this is something that's going to get better. It's it's going to get, I do believe, we're on the cutting edge of technology, that things are going to improve the way that we can pharmaceutically deal with this. Society is going to deal with it better, and families are going to be able to embrace this better. We're going to have more prevention, and it's so I just love to see this field growing. It's growing now, and it's...
Talk about, just for a moment, how can any of us prevent mental illness?
How can you prevent
Yeah,
mental
yeah.
illness? It's a good question, Suzanne.
But you can answer it, I'm sure. No, I mean, there has to be a recipe for, individually, for us staying healthy mentally as much as we can.
For each individual,
yeah,
it's going
yeah.
to be different.
Yeah.
And in coming to our rap group and writing your own rap, you decide, you voluntarily come and write a rap, and you decide what keeps you well, and what's going to. And for every individual, it's different. For me, my own wellness, to keep myself well, I have to get 8 hours of sleep a night. I have to be able to eat regular, drink water, and have exercise. My mental health, and having satisfying relationships,
That sounds
simple.
pretty good.
It's simple.
But
yeah.
how can you get that over to other people?
They come and they find it themselves.
Of course.
I think people unlock that key to their own wellness inside them. And, I give you the tools, and you make what tools work for you.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we prevent mental illness? I don't know. How can you prevent cancer? It's a good question. Good question.
Well, I think what's so apparent now in our society is that nutrition and exercise, bits and pieces are coming across. Except I've said this before on the air that if I don't exercise enough, I feel so guilty. So then that gives me stress. And then if I eat sugar, that gives me stress. So we're getting all these outside messages that add to our stress. I mean, nothing's perfect. It really isn't.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're doing is so wonderful, and you're a real humanitarian. That's what you really are.
Thank you,
You
Suzanne.
really are.
There is a number through the county that...
Yeah, wait, can you put that up?
You want me to put that
yeah,
up?
just hold it,
Okay.
and they'll get that. Oh, see, that's so important. Yeah. And then people that are really desperate can call. That's the most wonderful thing, is to be able to get yourself on the phone and get help. Not from a friend, not from your parents who are, so involved with you, right?
Well, this is also not just for when you're desperate, but I call it, instead of a crisis line, I call it a warm line. If I start feeling that, that this may lead to crisis, if I just have a notion that, I have some suicidal thought, I'm not going to wait until I get a plan to call this number. I'm going to wait and call right away. And say, because there's someone on the other side of this phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to talk to you and help you what's going on, and talk to you and help you, maybe get access to, a mental health professional that maybe could save your life.
And what about people that feel pretty good and they want to volunteer?
Oh, yes.
Talk about that.
Volunteer for the crisis suicide hotline through the county.
So you don't have to have a college degree.
No, and
to be a volunteer.
There's a lot of help that volunteers that are needed for homeless outreach, and also for the suicide and crisis hotline.
Yeah.
And for just that's one reason I got into this field was, I started to realize that I could make a difference in people's lives. And, that there was a way to, I had been in those situations where I was homeless. I was a substance abuse user.
What was that like, being homeless?
It was very degrading. It was very shameful. I had a lot of self-stigma, you know, where I felt very, you know, lower than a snake. So it was hard to reach out for help, you know, and it just took someone's not judging me at this one time and just saying, you know, you're a good person. You don't have to keep living like this. And then helped guide me to where I could get help. And I just put one foot in front of the other after that.
So you are the epitome of someone who's been through everything. Divorce, your children taken away, your son who was so sick. But look at you today. You're a gorgeous young woman. You are. And you're so happy. Diana, I have really enjoyed interviewing you. I'm very touched. I really am.
Oh.
I think it's so wonderful to meet somebody that has been through it. I mean, we've all been through it in different ways, but yours has been, you know, so difficult. I thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really touched. I really do.
Oh.
And I want to thank our crew, because without our crew, and we have an audience too, which is really, really nice, makes us feel very important. Thank you for being here. And of course, I want to thank our audience for watching. And I always say this, and I really mean it. I simply can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're so good. I'm so touched. I don't usually do this. But your story has been